do it.
So, and let's not do that.
Do you need someone to hold stuff?
Yeah, that's
No, I don't. The floor is happy. The floor is good. I haven't read this for a while, but I'm going to read this for you. This is called Water Is. Water is a metaphor for life. We run to quench our salty thirst. Water is a clown's death. We crouch on the edge, plunge to the free fall. It retrieves us, unscathed. We bubble up again. Water is a metaphor for sex. She's thirsty. Nymphs crouch on the rocks, beckoning you to get wet as well. Water is a metaphor for suffering. Dogs perch on the tips of boats, weary from the jostling waves. Pins jam into our ankles as we wade through cold streams. Water is a metaphor for fear. Unknown monsters lurk in silty brown depths amongst ghostly algae. Water laps and laughs, reflects and attacks. It is faithful on a clear sky pond. It is traitorous as a fair friend, pulling you in to finish off what God started, to fully log your water meter.
Wow.
When you read things that you forgot you wrote.
That's a good one.
Thanks. Let's see here. What do we got? Yep. Okay. So, are any of you familiar with the allegory of the cave?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because of Dave, my husband.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Can you explain it to everyone?
Oh, wait, you would turn that on me, Tara.
I'm sorry.
No,
I had
maybe
a
someone else could do it
diagram
better.
somewhere.
Can you do it?
Is Dan doing it?
Maybe Dan can do it.
Take the
Like rudimentarily speaking, it's from Plato, right?
Yes.
Right.
I don't know if I know it well enough, but basically it's about existence in the world from a very narrow perspective. So this isn't going to be the actual thing at all. This is the explanation of the thing, but how you view the world from a certain perspective, and all you know really is that perspective. And from Plato, it was like the story of living in a cave and only seeing the shadows on the wall as your reality. And then once you turn around and see the whole world out there and the light coming in that's creating those shadows, you see how much more vast the experience of life is.
Nice.
And it's like an allegory for kind of getting out of our own minds and yeah, something like that. Does that sound
Yes, that's
right?
perfect.
Okay.
I wrote a diagram. I drew a diagram earlier of this, and I have forgotten it.
Right.
But basically, it is exactly what Dan said. It's Plato. I just read Sophie's World. Plato had this allegory about how we perceive life, and he believed that generally people weren't, I guess, enlightened, and that the things that we see in life are actually just akin to shadows on a wall of what actually is. So he had this idea of people, to illustrate it, he imagined people chained in a cave their whole lives, facing away from the entrance of the cave, towards their shadows, and there was a bright light outside of the shadows, and things would pass in front of it and cast shadows on the wall. So what they would see are these shadows, and in the allegory, he wrote about his mentor Socrates, who escaped the cave to explore what was actually out there. So philosophy, they're seeking knowledge, seeking what's really happening. So in the book that I was reading, Sophie's World, the author, Justine Garter, believed that Plato saw the shadows as the things we see in life. Like, I'm looking at this, but in Plato's, or according to the author, this is a shadow. However, the author believed that Plato thought that ideas were more. Sorry, this is really convoluted. The author believed that Plato thought that ideas were more real than the actual things we see. And I felt like that was. I read the Allegory of the Cave as well, and I don't believe that that's what Plato was saying. I believe that Plato was saying that we look at this and we're like, oh, that's a stand, that's a music stand, or this is a microphone, and we're not looking at the actual thing. Like, what is this? There's sound going, there's waves going into it. How, So this is my refute of Sophie's World's take on Plato's Allegory of the Cave.
And this is what you wrote?
And I apologize in advance. Yes, this is what I wrote.
No, that's awesome.
Yes,
And-
girl.
Thanks. Okay, I'm just going to read it. Plato talked about a cave in which we are tied, all faced away from light of day, watching figures on a wall. Since infants we have been secured to knowing only this. We see the shadows, and to us only these exist. We don't know how above the wall behind our heads there go a million different forms parading in the glow. A million different life forms strutting near the fire. We'd see their outlines dimly if only we were higher. If only we could turn around, but lo, alas, we're bound. But Socrates, he breaks his chains and strikes out like a hound. He searches for the source, casting figures to our eyes. He scales the inner cave wall and makes it out alive. He finds the very source of what we think that we can see. How clear in day the forms do sway, voluminous and free. I'm not sure if I said that right. Some say Socrates was finding the ideas behind the sight. The fully formed reasoned before there was a light. Before we could see silhouettes, before the figures cast, before we took as gospel what before our eyes did pass. You see, he thought the source was thought itself. Ideas more true than truth. But I must argue with the lad who misused Plato's tooth. Ideas are made inside the mind and not the other way. We seek ideas of things we see to make sense of the day. Perhaps the shadows were ideas, perhaps the truth outside were the materials of life, existence, and our hide. Perhaps old Sock knew something by seeing things in form, that our ideas were the one source of what we thought the norm. For being stuck inside a cave, the caverns of our head, perhaps we fail to know that our perceptions are misled. For to make sense of anything, ideas we throw around, whereas observing the real world is awesomely profound. What are these planes of matter? What is this we call life? What is breathing? What is death? What is man and wife? How do we somehow achieve our level out and calm in such an ebbing biosphere rife with change and storm? We use ideas as comfort. We use ideas to sow the seeds of reasons told at hearths for truths we'll never know. So Socrates went back inside and told them of the source, and then the chained dwellers murdered him without remorse. And so I'll say, dear scholar, I think you missed the nail, backwards though compelling to tell our Plato's tale. To put man's reason and ideas on pedestals so high, we please ourselves with shadows instead of using open eyes. Thank you. Thank you. Now, I could play a song, but they're not very well rehearsed.
All right.
Yeah?
Dance.
You
Dance.
play great guitar. I hear it.
Okay. All right, I'll do this one because that was really long. I'll just do one.
Tara's choice.
Very good.
Thanks.
That's a good day.
It was a little bit confusing, but
No.
no, it was all right. It was a rant about. Never mind. All right. I'm not sure if I'm right. I could be wrong.
did it in rhymes.
But that rhymed,
Yeah.
and therefore. So this is a huge bummer. I know, Emily, you saved us all from the bummerdom of sadness by changing the words of the Red River Valley and making it nice for us.
But then I brought back the bummers.
And you brought back some bummers. So I'm here to also bum everyone out.
It's not that simple, though. It's not that simple.
Because, yeah, it's true. Because the sun comes
no
out.
rainbows. No rain, no rainbows.
That's true. Because, okay, so the sun was out for a couple days and it was gorgeous, and like now it's not out and everything's sad again. No, just kidding. So a lot of us are artists, a lot of us create things, and we project a lot of creativity and happiness and just yay. But there's another side to that. When you're done creating, it's almost like you've given birth to something, and like you're messy and like haggard, and like I feel extremely drained after I paint a mural or something. And I think I finished something earlier this year at City Market, and I was just spent and probably had like seasonal depression. And like I was like, oh, I have to sing a song about this, and to make myself feel better. So this is called Outside My Mind, and it's actually, I started it from the idea of a mural, because I was just getting bummed on murals. I was like, look, when you look at something too long, you're just like, why does it even have to exist? Like, why? Or like if you look at anything long enough, I guess. Sorry if I'm ranting too long. But so this goes from the perspective of a mural that I've painted. I'm trying to speak from it to also my perspective a little bit. And I don't think I've actually played this in front of anyone. So it's really, okay. Drown out all those happy voices, bury me in blankets dark. I told God what my free choice is, now that I have left my mark. That whimsy crumbles like my visage, faster than stone, slower than time. The residue of tattered plastic fades unseen to passers-by. I can't stand the rain again, I can't stand the sun, I can't stand up to the people like I could when I was young. I am spent, desolate and voiceless at the end of my long birth. No loving hands caress my shoulders, none to affirm my life's work. To wring your soul right out for profit, and not enough to live at that. One must put out milk and honey if you want to bag a fat cat. But I'm a dog and like a no one, I will crawl beneath the shed, and God won't know where I am hiding, as in the dust I rest my head. I can't stand the rain again, I can't stand the sun, I can't stand up to those people like I could when I was young. then my mark it won't have mattered. In the world we call alive, the universe no longer lingers. There is no is for me outside of my mind. Thanks.